You have to eat cat food. That sucks.
Eavesdroppin.
Well, hello, Michelle. How's it going?
Oh, everything's going just great.
Everything's coming up roses. Is it that?
You're showing your show tunes.
I'm
chops.
show tuning out.
You are.
Showing up, showing out, show tuning.
Wow, I didn't even know you were a show tunes kind of girl.
Oh, did you think you had cornered that market, Michelle? Because, of course, we know you played
Frenchie in Greece.
Frenchie in Greece, of course, back in 82.
Oh my God, fuck you. F you dicks. Do you know what? I have to make an apology to Jen.
Oh, did Jen get in touch after last week's episode when you announced that she got her
face cream. F you
face cream
dicks
wrong?
cream.
What is it?
I said, oh, did you hear, Mum? And she was, yes, and it is called F you dicks.
There is no two ways about it. It is F you dicks. Thank you very much. It's not F you dicks or F you dicks. It's F you dicks.
So I said, okay, Mum, I'll give you an apology.
There's your apology, Jen. Oh, bless you.
There's your apology. Yes. All good. We got snow. It's coming up to Christmas.
It's the first week of December, Michelle. Any of you who aren't regular listeners who haven't been listening for the past 4 years won't know this jingle, which we play every week in December. 1, 2, 3. It's Christmas every Wednesday in December. Drop for me, so will you drop with me? Drop, drop, drop. Sexy Santa in a place to play. What a hoot! What a hoot! And that should be enough to get you in the Christmas spirit.
Bit of cheer, a bit of eggnog on your face.
Eggnog on your face. I think you're supposed to drink it, Michelle.
Do you know what?
What?
I think I would like to try a bit of eggnog. I think I've had it in the past.
I say no thank you to that.
I've not loved it, but I would give it another try.
Okay, if you do, I will too. But do you know what it reminds me of? When I was little and we had a cat, Fluffy her name was, very original name, thanks for that, Mum. She had her operation. What's that operation called when they get desexed? What's that called?
Yes.
Desexing.
Which, yeah, she gets desexed. Yes.
That happened after she had kittens. And when Fluffy came home, all she was allowed to eat was a little bowl of an egg and milk whisked together, which I'm sure is not the right thing to give to a cat. But to me, whenever I see eggnog, I think of the hospital food that you give to a cat, basically.
No. Oh, that's such a shame. How do you feel about an amaretto sour?
I don't like amaretto. I do like sour things, but I don't like amaretto. What do I do about that? Is there another kind of sour? Whiskey sour? Don't like
There's
whiskey.
a pisco sour.
Oh, I'll try that.
That's delicious, but that does have a little bit of a fluffy egg white on the top.
Oh, I don't mind a bit of an egg white. I've been known to make a margarita with a bit of egg white.
What?
Yeah. I'm not scared of raw eggs, Michelle.
Thank God for that.
I make mayonnaise.
Yes, that is true. And you make a damn fine mayonnaise. In fact, I think we should give our gorgeous Patreon listeners a couple of Christmas recipes.
That's a good idea.
I think we should have one for your Christmas mayo.
Okay, that's not exactly Christmassy, but okay, right.
I recently drank a delicious cocktail called an Old Cuban.
Oh, what's in that?
Lovely things. Champagne, vanilla syrup, all sorts.
Okay, we'll give that a go.
It's not a sweet, yucky, vanilla-y one. It's a hint. I'm going to put that on the Patreon so you can have a little Christmas cocktail.
That's nice, isn't it? What a great idea. And if you feel like you're missing out because you're not a patron, then just go over to patreon.com/eavesdroppin. No G on the end.
That's right.
You're welcome. You can pay a penny or two and get in and watch a few little videos, reminisce, have access to all the show notes that Michelle tirelessly compiles, rabbit holes to go down when you're bored, plus sometimes videos. We did a video this month, didn't we, Michelle? A little chitty-chatty video.
We did a chitty-chatty video. Book club. Eavesdroppin' book club.
It was a book club.
Well, I mean, It was you bringing books to the table. I forgot the memo, but...
You did fuck all, but that's okay.
You were entertained by the books that we discussed, and that's
I
nice
was.
too.
So head on over to the Patreon. You can stuff our Christmas stocking with a little coin. We don't mind.
Please do. In fact, we'd love that. Welcome, eavesdroppers. I'm Geordie, by the way.
And I am Michelle, and you are listening to Eavesdroppin, the comedy podcast. It's comedy. We talk about some dark shit, but we have a little joke, because what's life if you can't have a laugh?
That's right. We're not laughing at, but with.
Yeah.
Is that right?
I hope so, because I'm not sure if one of my stories this week is on the edge. Not sure.
Oh, dear. Well, brace yourself, people, as always, because there's always a little something a little bit shocking from week to week in our real-life true crime supernatural podcast. But before we launch into your Christmas bag of tricks, Michelle, I'd like to just recommend a few things from our listeners.
Wonderful, because I am desperate for some telerecs. Quite a few episodes ago, one of our listeners, I believe it was Shari, and our White Witch Safka, gorgeous girls, had recommended The Substance. Well, I did watch it.
We talked about that, didn't we? I've heard about that as well.
Well, body horror, all of that.
Body horror.
I've just got to say, that girl, the lead girl, who is Auntie McDowell's daughter, I don't know if it's AI or if her body really looks like that. She has the most perfect body on the planet, and she's stunningly gorgeous. Like, how is that even possible? But Demi Moore, kind of fun. The thing is, it's really terrifying film.
Is it?
Until the last 20 minutes where it goes schlock horror and it turns into one of those kind of homage to an 80s horror film. So... yeah, it kind of lightened the load. I mean, I was laughing at the end. Yes,
okay.
There is some light with the dark.
Do you think I could handle it?
Not the first part, no. I think you would be quite grossed out. And I don't think it's one for the kids.
Not one for the kids, The Substance. That's a good tip from the top. Thanks, Michelle. Okay, well, speaking of Safka, our White Witch, she recommended a podcast, actually, and I'm listening to that podcast right now because I bloody love anything to do with the glamour and the glitz of rock and roll from the 70s.
Right.
And it's called Lost Notes, Groupies from Sunset Strip to the Pill to Punk. And it's about baby groupies and bands like Led Zeppelin, David Bowie. Did you know that David Bowie actually deflowered a 14-year-old groupie who's famous called Lori Lightning? When I'm listening to this podcast, I'm Googling all the pictures of these little girls.
Right.
To see if they did look like they might not be 16 and 14 and whatnot, but they do look very young. And it led me back to this disturbing story, and I've alluded to it before because we do talk about Led Zeppelin an awful lot on this podcast for some strange reason. I'm not a massive fan, but I think it's because Jimmy Page is a master of the dark arts. And our first episode that we did on this podcast all the way back in November 2020 was about Aleister Crowley. The Beast of Hastings was the name of the episode. And it went into how Jimmy Page bought Boleskine Manor in Scotland, which is, it was the home of Crowley at one point. So yes, I've just said about 100 things at once there. Sorry if you can't follow. There is, you can Google it, I'm not going to talk about it, a horrible story about a fish and Led Zeppelin and a 17-year-old groupie.
No.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
No.
But that was that one from Safka. Thank you. And Yannicka has come in hot with a couple of recs. She led with one not to watch.
Okay. That's always good because nobody wants to waste their time.
Don't waste your time on Joan, is what Yannicka said. It looked good. It's got Sophie Turner from Game of Thrones, Sansa. Okay. I was going to call her Safka. Looking gorgeous.
Yes.
It's about a jewel thief.
Okay.
And the cast look young and hot and gorgeous, but apparently it's not a goer,
dud.
according to Yannicka from Amsterdam. She has just started watching Bad Sisters on Apple, though, and she does recommend that so far.
Now, look, I also want to mention a don't watch, and this is premature, I have to say, because ages ago I did say, I'm quite looking forward to watching the final series.
Was it the one about the Pirate Bay and the Swedish guy and all the Swedish code? That sounded like a riveting episode.
It's fucking great. And
you couldn't remember the name of it or anything.
It's called the bloody Pirate Bay. That's all it's called.
All right.
Rude. I did talk about how I was keen to watch the last season of My Brilliant Friend. That whole
Oh, yes. You've been following
what's
that.
one more than a trilogy? A quad?
Quadruple C.
I don't know.
What was that noise?
That is the Christmas cat. She's got to go out. She's got to go out.
Hold that thought. You've got to let that cat out because she's not actually yours. Perhaps you could return her to her
She's
owners.
the queen of the neighbourhood. She runs up covered in snow. She wants to come in. I let her in. I give her the snacks. That's how you steal a cat.
Quick segue. When you said covered in snow, you know my dog walking WhatsApp. It's been mentioned on here before.
Yeah.
There's a listener who's also on it. Hi, Karen. I can't help myself. I keep wanting to leave it, but I'm still there. I'm still lurking and I'm still reading all these comments on the WhatsApp. One person warned the rest of us to be very careful when walking in our local recreation ground,
I know the one.
which juts up against some allotments, where my husband has an allotment actually, because currently, and it's very sad, currently there are people living in tents in there and it's bloody soaking wet throughout there as well. I don't know how they managed to keep dry and warm at night. That's awful. And the person posting did say how awful it must be to be in that predicament, but the doggy went in and came out covered in human poo.
Oh, my God. Well, maybe one tent is a toilet. The other tent is the living quarters.
The toilet
tent.
Oh.
Maybe, because look.
What, you just go in, drop one and then come back out again?
Yes.
Surely there's better ways of doing it than just shitting in a tent.
Where else are you going to go if you're homeless?
Dig a hole in the ground.
Yeah, but then people see you. What? They should dig a hole in the tent.
Right.
You know?
That's a good one. Or a plastic bag. What's wrong with a plastic bag as a toilet? I've used that before.
I've done that.
Needs must and all that. We all have.
I've
See,
done
it's
that.
normal.
Yes, I have shat in a bag.
We've all shat in a bag.
And I've used a slice of bread as a wipe.
Didn't do
It
that.
was a very comfortable one.
That's a new one.
Let me tell you. And it was good for the planet. Oh, my God.
Holy hell. Where were
Back
we?
to the bloody telewreck that I'm not
Okay.
recommending. This goes back.
Which is?
The last series of bloody My Brilliant Friend. Do you know what? Maybe I'm being premature. I turned it on. I started watching it for all of 5 minutes. And I thought, I can't do this.
Is it too boring?
Well, A, it was boring. And B, the characters are aged now. They're now in their kind of...
You don't like old things and old people, do you?
I like old. Old is... Anything can be new, but not everything can be old. I like old.
Oh, it's a good way of looking at it.
Yes. Obviously, the characters started when they were children.
Yeah.
6 and 7. It goes right through until they die. So we're in the elder years of these characters. But they've got new actresses and actors to play all the characters. I can't watch.
Like The Crown.
I cannot watch because for me, the characters are the ones that we've had for the last 2 series. I cannot suspend my disbelief.
Imagine them as
Yes, I
anyone
cannot
else.
do it.
Right.
And it was so upsetting, I just turned off. I've read the books. It's enough.
All right. Well, you know the story, so that's fair enough. Okay. Well, I'm going to recommend... This is a tricky one because I'm only half watching it. My hubby's right into it. It's called Silo, also on Apple.
You talked about this last
I said
week.
it was boring. We're into the second series now, and it's not that boring. It's just a little dark. I find it a bit dark. But he's loving it. We're still watching that. I'm actually scrolling as we watch that. I want to watch, because you just said about a long-awaited sequel, I want to watch Wolf Hall, the second part of the Wolf Hall story.
Never even watched the first one.
We'll go back and watch it. Currently on BBC One, I think it is, you can see Wolf Hall, the first series, which is about 5 or 6 years ago. So all the characters have aged. And the second series, which is out now, starring Mark Rylance and Damien Lewis as King Henry VIII.
Cat bum mouth. Love him. Do you know what? We've had a lot of references to cats.
Today, so far, yes. I wonder if we've got any more cats coming up in the story.
Well, do you know what? I was not going to lead with this, but I do have a Christmas cat story. So let's just go with that.
Let's get in
start with
there.
that.
Great.
So I was looking for strange Christmas real-life stories. And I will say this one actually touched me because I am a cat lover.
Who isn't?
And this was on Reddit because Reddit has every fucking thing you can imagine. A shit ton of real-life stories. I'll link to this one on the Patreon as always. This one comes from a user called KnivesOut21.
Okay.
Don't know if it's a he, she.
They, them?
Yes, so we're going to go with they.
Okay.
They start the story by saying they were around 16 years old when this happened. It was Christmas Eve. It was snowing heavily. We've had a lot of snow here today as well. Snowing heavily. And Knives Out 21 was sitting in the living room with their parents. The Christmas tree lights were on. They were having eggnog again.
Can we just have like port and cheese or maybe a espresso martini instead?
Maybe, but you know what? I left that huge bottle of manzanilla at your place.
What's that?
Yeah, you need to open it because our chefs were talking about manzanilla and how fucking delicious it is. It is like a Portuguese sherry or port or something.
I don't even know where that is, Michelle. I'm going to have to dig that out.
Bloody look for it. And if you don't want it, I'll take it back.
Well, let's do some cocktails with that.
Yes, or we try it neat first.
Okay.
Anyway, back to Knives Out 21. Christmas Eve, snowing, lights are on, parents, eggnog.
What more could you want?
Opening up their Christmas stockings. Suddenly, the family heard a knock on the door. It was a banging and it was loud. And it was 3 times. Knock, knock, knock.
Oh.
Okay, Knives Out 21 says, we go to the door, we see no one out the window. But my dad opened up the door and looked down, and there was a bloodied black cat lying across the threshold.
Oh, God.
Yeah, of the door, across the snow.
He knocked.
Someone fucking knocked.
God.
Someone knocked. Knives Out says, what was fucked up was there were no human footprints in the snow. No tire tracks.
Witchcraft.
Logistically, there was nowhere and no way that we would not have seen anyone if they put the cat there.
Was it dead?
Well, Knives Out says it was still alive. So we shut the door and left it there and it was gone in the morning.
Why would you do that? Knives Out. That's mean.
Then they say, lol,
Oh.
not. Okay.
Okay. What?
Knives
Why did she even do that?
Knives Out then says, my family and I are huge animal lovers. Of course we took it in and made it comfortable. It was a young male cat that was not fixed, i.e. dissexed.
Right.
And had been in a terrible fight.
Oh.
A few days later, we took it to a vet and he recovered nicely.
He was a bruiser.
The other weird thing is, aside from the knocking and no footprints in the snow, was my mom gave this cat to a friend of ours that lived down the street. About 4 or 5 months later, the cat, now happily part of the family, woke them all up one night, howling and screaming, just freaking the fuck out. Turns out an electrical fire had started in the garage and one of their cars was on fire. They all woke up, everyone was okay, the car didn't blow up and only the garage was damaged. But they were very lucky in general, but especially because there were all kinds of flammable things in the garage. Initially, they called the cat something stupid like Shadow, but then they renamed him Clark after Superman.
Oh, gosh,
Lol.
that's really sweet.
He was a really nice cat and lived to be pretty old.
Oh, now, you know what's going through my mind right now, and it's absolutely fantastical and ridiculous, but what if that was a reincarnated or cursed person who'd been forced to live in Clark's body as a cat? And while you were talking, I was thinking, how shit would that be? I thought, oh, that's nice. He gets to live with a family. But then I thought, you have to eat cat food. That sucks.
I don't know. I would love to come back as a cat.
But you have to eat cat food. I prefer dog food over cat food. I can't touch cat food.
Well, it depends. You can feed your cat stuff that's not cat food. I mean,
But you don't.
this cat that we stole, we don't really know who the owner is, but we think it could be a Portuguese family in one of the next buildings. This cat only likes junk food, loves the cat food because Andreas gives it filet, caviar,
Caviar?
bits of super expensive fish, like anything, the expensive
end.
products that we bring back from the restaurant, cat turns its nose up.
Oh,
So not a gourmet cat,
fair enough.
junk food cat.
So going back to your story though, Michelle, what was the upshot? What did Knives Out 21 say in the end?
Well, that was it,
Oh.
that he was a lovely cat and lived to be really old.
Oh, that's nice.
But the thing is, they never found out if anyone had left it there.
Or if it was a man.
Yes.
A cursed man who's been turned into a cat. Yeah.
But you know what? You hear about this all the time. Cats just come to people. It happened to me. It happened to my mum. You know, my mum had Rexy. She just was out one day. This was after her previous cat had died. And there was a cat. Meow, meow. Mum took it. I mean, we all thought she'd deliberately gone and got this cat, but she insists no.
She stole
This
the
cat
cat.
just came to her. And then when I was living in Sydney, I had 2 cats that mysteriously came to us.
Oh.
One cat, I had come home from work. There was a cardboard box. I thought, great, delivery. What's in there? Tampax. What?
Huh?
Looked inside the box. There's a cat.
What?
In a dirty old jumper.
Oh, my God.
Dumped on my doorstep. So, of course, had to take in that cat. A week later, 6 a.m., I'm hearing, meow, meow, and I'm like, what the fuck's going on? Go outside. Somebody had dumped a 4-week-old kitten in our garbage bin.
Oh, my God, that's heartbreaking.
I know. Reached in, grabbed this little cat, just jumped into my arms, and that was it.
I didn't know that story. Oh, God.
So I had 2 cats, Polly and Dud.
Oh.
So that was it. You know, cats come to you somehow. They find you. I also think people know when someone's a cat lover, and maybe someone knew that I took that first cat in that bloody Tampax box and left this other one.
Kept giving you cats. Thank God you moved. Or you'd be a cat lady by now, wouldn't you?
I would be a crazy cat lady, 100%. Honestly, if I didn't live in the middle of nowhere in the snow and was travelling quite a bit, I would have a cat now. But I've got a stolen cat, so I get half the love and no responsibility. So
it's like being a grandmother.
Yeah.
You can hand them back at the end of the day.
Just let them out. See you later. Say what? I have got some other ghostly Christmas stories. This one again, Reddit. It's from Colo Birdie 85. And they talk about a ghostly Christmas hello from the other side.
Oh, wow.
So, Colo Birdie 85 says, the first Christmas after my grandpa died, I was 17 and still very confused on how to handle the shit show of emotions I was having. Christmas morning, I was sitting on the floor with my brother opening presents when we noticed 2 cards tucked into the tree. I opened the one with my name on it, and it was in my grandpa's handwriting. All it said was, "Love you, Peanut," which was his nickname for me. He passed away in August and had never given me a card for Christmas in my life.
Wow.
My mum refuses to acknowledge this happened, but my brother remembers it as well. So the mum's saying, bullshit, that never happened.
Yeah.
And the brother's there going, yep, I remember the cards. I was there. I got one too. Colo Birdie 85 says, up until about 9 years ago, there was actually a picture of me holding the card.
Oh.
But when I recently went to look for it, the picture had vanished.
Oh, dear.
What do you think?
I have a couple of theories on this one. I think maybe it could be one of those, because they were kids at the time. I'm wondering if it was like an imagined thing or a wishful thinking thing shared with his brother, and they both remember it as being real, but actually it wasn't real, or it was real and mum just doesn't remember it or doesn't believe it. But actually, I don't quite know what's gone on there. It kind of reminded me, I thought you were going to talk about, because you said Hollow Bird, didn't you? His name was Bird.
Colo Birdie.
Colo.
I think maybe Colorado.
Oh, I
don't
see.
know. Colo Birdie.
I thought it was going to be a bird flying in. Like what happened to Nicole Ansari Cox, the actress who wrote into us to tell us that her story. She's married to Brian Cox, the actor, about when her dad died. And as he died, a bird came in and sat on some significant things like a photo frame, various other things that just made them know without doubt that it was their dad who was kind of showing them he's okay.
Yes. I kind of believe that about birds. I also think butterflies.
Yeah, they say that, don't they?
Yes. And Jen's had a few of those encounters. I think I've got them wrong.
She denied it, yes.
She did. Now, I've got another little eerie, last little Christmas story.
Yeah.
This one comes from a handle called Stiff Neck Lady.
The handles are really something, aren't they?
They really are. What would yours be?
I don't think it would be stiff-necked lady, even though I can be quite the stiff-necked lady.
Yes.
Or plantar fasciitis, number...
Oh, my God.
Tennis elbow 75.
Shit.
Acute appendicitis 19.
Yes, of course. I would have failing eyesight 22. That's what I would have. Honestly, I need these bloody glasses.
Early onset dementia.
That's not on the edge.
Not a good handle. Okay, Soz. Carry on. Do continue.
Well, I would say a stiff-necked lady is a lady. So, and apparently,
Yeah.
yes, I think,
Say what
and
you
she
see.
says she lives in the Philippines. So she says during the 80s, her family had a Christmas party, which ended late in the wee hours of the morning. She goes on to say her mum and her cousin were taking the trash outside before they went to bed, and they saw that their neighbour was sitting across the house by the gutters and was smiling at them. She waved hi, and the girl smiled, and her mum and cousin, or mum's cousin or her cousin, waved back. And then the cousin shook her head and said, that's not my neighbour. And then she realised that their neighbour had shoulder-length hair, and the girl in front of them had long ankle-length hair.
What? Who even has that hair?
I know, and they were wearing a long white sleeping gown.
What?
The mum and the cousin
Sleeping
started
gown.
screaming. Yes, and they ran back inside the house. The next morning, they learned their neighbours were not even home. They were spending Christmas somewhere else.
Yeah.
And they were like, fuck, it must have been a ghost. But they weren't sure if it was a ghost. But in the Philippines, she says it would be so uncomfortable to be wearing a long sleeping gown. I think she means a nightie.
Okay.
Because they live in a tropical country.
Yeah.
And so could it have been a ghost that stiff-necked lady's talking about?
Yeah. Or
It sounds to me like
a home invasion.
a home. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But in a long white dress with long ankle-length hair.
That hair.
What is that movie? And I'm just trying to remember what it is.
Dark Water. No, not Dark Water. That was the
Not
other
Dark
one.
Water.
It was the one, not the Scream.
The one where there's the
Ring.
That's it. The Ring. I did get the Ring vibes.
Yeah, I'm getting Ring vibes right now.
Yes. So I'm not sure.
Golly.
But look, I'm going to end on a story. It's a Christmas hoarder story, Geordie, because you know I love a hoarder story. And this week, I'm looking at Anne.
Oh, Anne. Is this on the TV show Hoarders?
It is, because there's nowhere better for a good hoarder story.
On the TLC network, which we talk about a lot, Tender Love and Care. No, it's the Learning Channel.
Do you know what, Geordie? When I was doing the show notes last week, I learned that your cult, Synanon,
Yeah.
was first called TLC.
That's
Tender
right.
Loving Care.
Yes, they were.
Can
Yeah.
you believe that?
Yeah.
So this is not a cult channel. We're just talking about hoarders. We're talking about Anne. She's a hoarder. She really loves Christmas.
Oh,
She loves Christmas more than her husband.
loves Christmas.
No,
No, just more than her husband, full stop.
I think, and this is the problem here, the
Okay.
husband's had enough. The husband's had enough, because in Anne's house, every day is Christmas.
Oh, no.
Now, look, I will just say, I know hoarding is a mental illness. I know it's a disorder.
Yeah.
It has disastrous consequences on the mental and physical health.
We are sympathetic towards those who
Exactly.
suffer and those who love people who suffer. Yeah.
But Anne's story, it's Christmassy, so that's why I've gone there. But there's also one element that was a little bit close to the bone. So a little bit about Anne. She works in a mall, in retail, and she's married to a guy called Scott who is diabetic and could face serious health risks and injuries due to Anne's hoarding.
Oh, dear.
Namely, he literally cannot get to the bathroom, kitchen,
no.
or bedroom to live a normal life
Oh, no.
and do all the diabetic stuff he needs to do.
Yeah.
But for Anne, she just really loves Christmas.
Too bad, Scott.
I know, sorry, Scott, Christmas comes first. She says it's a lot of fun. She used to love it when people used to come round to the house and give her loads of compliments on how beautiful her Christmas trees were. But that was a long time ago, because now she can't invite anyone over because she lives in a fucking hoarder house. And her husband, Scott, says this house is absolutely a disaster. It honestly looks like Christmas threw up all over my house. So he goes on to say they've had a Christmas house completely decorated for Christmas, like
Yeah.
multiple trees everywhere. There's Christmas trees
24/7.
24/7. The Christmas lights are on, because I don't think they can get close to the trees to even turn them off.
Oh,
And there's like probably, I don't know, 15, 20 trees in the house.
My God.
There's wreaths on the windows. There's gnomes and shit. Like it's Christmas. It's been decorated like that for 8 years.
Oh, wow.
Every day, Christmas. And the reason he personally hasn't taken the Christmas decorations down is because he literally can't get to the trees and the wreaths and the knickknacks because of all the hoarder clutter.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I have to say, I have seen worse hoarder houses, but still, I would not want to live with shit like that everywhere. I mean, it is quite bad. It's got a path. When you've got a hoarder house where you had to just make a little path where one foot in front of the other can go to get from A to B, you know it's quite bad.
Yeah.
Anne is also a compulsive shopper.
Oh, dear. I thought that was going to be the case, yeah.
Yeah, she can't stop buying more stuff to bring into the house. And she's like, I don't think I really have a problem. She's like, I just love shopping. And this is a quote. She says, working at the mall, you're just there. You don't have to drive anywhere to go shopping. You're already at the mall because that's where she works. And she said it just builds up. You know, that's why it's so messy. She just thinks her house is messy.
It's a bit messy.
Mate, it's beyond messy. It's a fucking health risk.
Oh, dear.
And Scott says, and this is a quote, a hoarder working in retail in the mall is basically like an alcoholic working in a bar.
I agree.
Yes. And he says he thinks she spent around $70,000 on bath products and perfumes and candles because not only is Anne a Christmas hoarder, she's a beauty product hoarder as well.
Oh, no. Imagine going to Anne's for a shopping trip, though. You could get some bargains when she sells it all off.
She's not selling shit. She's holding on to that stuff.
Yeah.
And because the thing is, Geordie, I was watching this bit on bloody hoarders and I thought, oh my God, I think that's a little bit me. I think I have a beauty product hoarding tendency because I love a beauty product.
Yeah, don't we all? But you know what? I've realised we do have to go through them and get rid of them. I'm still hanging on to eyeliners that you've given me back when you worked in magazines.
I think that's okay. I think an eyeliner you can have for life. I do think if you've got a moisturiser that you've had for 10 years.
It'll smell.
I also don't know what the chemicals inside that tube have done, you know, if it's not a natural product. So it's got to go in the bin. Poor old Anne, she can't bear to part with anything because she just doesn't want to give away her lotions.
They're all for her. God damn it.
And honestly, in 5 lifetimes, she could not use all that stuff.
Right.
I mean, look, at least I do use my stuff to the end. It does take me a while, but poor old Anne, she buys the stuff and then she leaves it in the shopping bag it came in from the mall. And that's where it stays kind of forever.
Oh, no. What a waste.
It is. And do not try to throw any of this stuff away or be rational about the amount of stuff she has because obviously, as we both know, it's not about the stuff. It's clearly a deeper issue.
Yeah.
But they never really get into that in the show.
Well, they're not there for the where's the why-fors and whatnot and the helping, you know, somebody psychologically. It's all about the show and the spectacle of, oh, look at this person's got themselves into this situation. How can that happen? What a surprise. Oh, God, look at this.
Well, I will say that there is a psychologist who is there.
Oh, good.
No, I think he's a bit shit, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
Yes. But you mainly see Scott, he's at his wit's end. He's saying stuff like, whenever I throw things out, she goes out and gets them out of the trash and brings them back in.
Sounds like my husband.
And Anne's like, I do want to get things cleared out to a point, but I want to make sure that I keep what I want.
She's reluctant to let go of anything.
Yeah, because she's like, it's my stuff. It's my house.
Yeah.
But poor old Scott is like, she's prioritizing her stuff over my health and our marriage. He said, I told Anne that if she was not going to clean up,
he's out.
I'm out.
Yeah.
He can't take it anymore.
Sure.
Then a woman enters the whole situation.
Enter the woman.
Enter the woman. Her name is Standalin Robertson.
That's her first name, Standalin.
Yes. And I have to say, what kind of a fucked up, crazy name is Standalin? It's not even a real name.
It's somebody's last name by the sound of it.
Standalin Robertson. She comes in. She is a certified professional organizer. And she comes in with this like mental health professional. I've got his name somewhere, not to hand right now. I have to say, I think they're both kind of bullies. I think they bully Anne on this show and I felt quite uncomfortable.
That's not great.
Look, I'll link this segment on Patreon. You can let me know what you think.
Yeah.
Lovely patrons. Anne's clearly not in a good way. And she's distressed by what's going on. And the professionals are on the husband's side here. And I actually don't even think there should be sides in a situation like this. It's too triggering because Anne is not well. But Standalin and her team go in and they take everything from inside the house outside.
Okay.
So Anne can start to go through things. And she is going through her lotions and she's like, keep. Nothing is making the trash pile. And Standalin's getting frustrated. The husband's getting frustrated. Standalin's like, Anne, just tell me what's going. And she's going through like 20 things going, oh, okay, you can donate that. Standalin says, how does it feel to donate something? Does it feel good? And Anne's like, no. And she's like, it's a brand new product. I spent my hard-earned money to buy this.
But she didn't even know it was there until Standalin came in and took it all out.
And Standalin does sort of make a point. Was it a bargain? And she's like, yes. And she's like, well, is it a good deal when you can't walk in your house and your husband's going to leave you?
Reality check.
But Geordie, nothing gets chucked.
Oh,
and
God.
Scott is losing his shit. He's seeing all the money that she spent on this stuff because while it's sitting in a shopping bag, he can't really see what's there.
Yeah.
And he's seeing how none of it's getting thrown away. So Scott has a strategy. He tells her, you can have 1 tub of candles, 1 tub of lotions.
Good strategy.
1 tub of these bits and pieces. The rest has to go.
Yes.
And the Christmas trees have to come down.
Of course.
She can't do it, Geordie.
Oh,
She wants it all and Scott's losing it. And it kind of gets to a candle standoff because there is this one particular candle and he's like, that needs to go. And Anne is digging her heels in because it's a nutcracker candle. Not only is it a nutcracker candle, it's Christmas. Do you know what I mean? So it's like a double whammy.
Yeah.
And then she's like, and it's not a candle, it's decor.
Right.
So now she's trying to rebrand these things to
But
keep
what's the point of having decor when you can't even see the floor?
I know. Then this is what I don't like. Then this psychologist guy comes in and he talks to Scott and he's like, you need to assert your power with her. He's like, this is your opportunity, Scott, with our support to practice asserting yourself and insisting that she lets this candle go. And it doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work. She needs specialist help.
Of course she does.
But she also needs to want the help in the first place. And it doesn't sound like she's ready for that.
But she's also not prepared for her husband to come in and go, you need to get rid of that. It doesn't work. He goes back out, tells him, yeah, that didn't go well. He goes and tries again to get that fucking nutcracker candle in the bin. But she's not having it. And she is definitely, you can see, she's the alpha here in the house. The psychologist, Dr. Tompkins, his name is, just says, right, okay, I've got a plan B for you, Scott. You're going to have your own room where she's not allowed to put a single thing in.
She's not allowed in.
No.
Yeah, perfect.
But is it because it's got a single bed? It's only his stuff. Scott, by the way, is over the fucking moon. He's like, yeah. But I think this is some dodgy psychology right there in my book because...
They're grasping at straws at this point.
Yes, but they're not addressing any problems. They're just sticking him in a guest room. Obviously, Anne can't let go of the candle, the nutcracker. Scott's over the moon that he's saving his marriage by having his own room and a single bed. And at this point, the house is looking pretty good. Except it is not a real picture of what Anne has thrown away because it's all out on the lawn. Standalin's like, well, I've run out of my allocated time. Pick it all up and put it back in. So they put it all back in.
Oh, no, that is counterproductive.
Of course.
What a waste of time.
It's a more organised tip, but it's still a fucking tip. Standalin's like, so what are you going to do, create some more paths? And she's like, yeah. And it's like, Rome wasn't built in a day. And Scott's happy. He says, I'm going to stay. I've got my own room.
Oh, God.
Anne's left with so much stuff that she hasn't thrown away.
Yeah.
So, look, I guess it's kind of a happy ending for Scott. But, Geordie, what do you think of all this?
Oh, I don't even know where to start. I don't know what the cure, for want of a better word, is for such a disorder. And I believe it is now in the DSM, and it is a disorder, hoarding. It's clearly linked to something traumatic from that person's past. I think, again, I could be wrong. It needs addressing, but when the person in it doesn't want to address it, then you've got a problem. But in the case of most hoarders, they don't allow people into their lives. The fact that she's sharing her life with a non-hoarder is really interesting. The fact that he's still there and wants to be there is also interesting and weird to me.
Yeah.
I mean, he could just leave and leave her to it, but he hasn't.
Well, I guess he loves her.
But that's not enough for her to give it up either. So it's not like she's lonely. It's not like she hasn't got anyone in her life. She does. And even that, she won't sacrifice stuff over a person.
No.
She can't prioritize that. And I would be very interested to know why.
Well, I did try and do a little digging to see if there was a follow-up, but no, we don't really know how it worked out for Anne and Scott. So
It's fascinating though, isn't it?
yes, it is, and Merry fucking Christmas.
Drop it. Well, Merry fucking Christmas to you too, Michelle. I'm going to tell you a Christmas real life story, which happened in America on December the 17th in 1968. It's a week before Christmas. Didn't do the top 5 charts or the top 3 song charts of the year because it couldn't be bothered.
Fair enough.
And it's about a young student called Barbara Jane Mackle, 20 years old, from Emory Uni in Atlanta, Georgia. She came down with the Hong Kong flu, which at that time was just tearing its way through the uni.
Through the world, actually.
Do you remember that, the 68
No.
Hong Kong flu?
You bitch. No, obviously I wasn't even born yet. But I remember during COVID, Andreas's dad had said this is like Hong Kong flu all over again.
Oh, I didn't know about it. Well, Barbara had to leave in the middle of an exam, and then her mum came to get her early for the Christmas break to bring her back to their place in Florida, because Barbara's from a wealthy family. They owned a successful housing development company worth $65 million, and Barbara was really looking forward to going home and spending Christmas with the family. So when Jane, the mum, came to collect Barbara from uni, it was a long drive. So on the way back, mum and daughter stopped off at an inn to break up the journey. And that night, Barbara's boyfriend, Stuart Woodward, dropped by to say goodbye for the holidays and then left. Later on that night, around 4 a.m. in the morning, the ladies were woken by a knock at the door. Jane went to the door and said, "Who is it?" The reply was, it was 2 police officers, a man and a woman, who told Jane that there had been a car accident. So Jane thought, oh gosh, I hope that's not anything to do with Stuart being involved in a crash. So she let them in. But they weren't police officers, Michelle. They were wearing ski masks and carrying rifles, and attacked Jane as soon as the door opened. They knocked her out with chloroform and tied her up in the room before they bundled her daughter Barbara into their car.
Oh, fuck.
Jane was able to finally free herself and called the police, but meanwhile Barbara was already being driven 30 miles north of Atlanta by these kidnappers.
Fuck.
They were demanding $500,000, which was around $4 million in today's money, from Barbara Mackle's family for her safe return. The kidnappers eventually stopped in a secluded area of Georgia called Gwinnett County and placed her into a coffin-like fiberglass box, along with 2 air tubes, a supply of food, water laced with sedatives, and a battery-powered lamp. They then put a sign in her hands that read "kidnapped" and took a photo of her.
Okay. Oh, my God.
So these air tubes were then brought out so that she could have air, but then they basically buried her.
Oh, my God.
Uh-huh. They contacted Barbara's father demanding a ransom, which he did honour. However, during the exchange, the first time round, there's 2 attempts at this.
Right.
The first time round, there was a police car that drove past at the time, spooked the kidnappers, and they left their car and just ran off on foot, leaving behind a trail of clues, such as the alias that was used to rent the car, the name of the person who rented the car,
Yes.
plus a picture of a man in a policeman's hat.
I have to say, I've got a theory here.
Okay, let's see if it's the correct theory. So the second ransom drop was a success, but then the police didn't hear from the kidnappers and time was running out
Right.
at this point. In the meantime, because of the car being abandoned by the kidnappers, police had managed to trace the name George Deacon, which was the name that was used to rent the car, and they followed a trail to a university in Miami where there was a George Deacon who worked there building ventilated boxes for a company on campus. So through George Deacon's employers, they were given the name Ruth Eisman Shear or Shire. I don't know how you pronounce it. Ruth Eisman Shear's name as a known associate, and she was another employee at the uni. Then the FBI got a call from a man in Georgia who said he'd just bought a trailer and found some strange papers inside. There were letters addressed to George Deacon and Gary Christ. Now, for the police, alarm bells rang when they heard Christ's name because he had been on the run since escaping prison 2 years earlier in 1966. Once the prints in the car were run alongside Gary Christ's file, they realised they had a match and that George Deacon was actually Gary Christ.
Right. Okay, he's got a load of other identities.
Well, he's got one other identity, which is George Deacon, that we know of.
Correct, not loads.
It might not align with your theory, because I have an idea what it might be. We can talk about that in a minute.
Yes.
But then by December 20, which is 3 days after Barbara was abducted and Jane was knocked out, Christ called the FBI and finally gave the coordinates, rough coordinates, mind you, of where Barbara was buried, prompting 100 agents to comb the area and dig around with their hands as they went. So 3.5 days after being buried, Barbara was finally rescued by the FBI, dehydrated but alive.
Right, okay. Thank God she was alive.
In Barbara's book, which is called 83 Hours Till Dawn, she recounts the terror that she felt at the time when she was being buried. She said, "I screamed and screamed. The sound of the dirt got farther and farther away. Finally, I couldn't hear anything above. I screamed for a long time after that."
Right.
Poor thing, honestly. Psychologically, that must have done some damage.
Yeah.
She said she knew, though, that she was not going to die in that box. And she tried to keep her spirits up by replaying images of her spending Christmas with her family in her head.
Very good, positive thinking.
And imagining being found.
Yes.
She never gave up. The same day as Gary Christ gave the coordinates or the rough area to the police, they also were searching the Florida swamp after a tip-off led them to capture Christ in a speedboat that he had bought with some of the ransom money.
Okay, all right.
His accomplice, Ruth Eisman Sheaf, however, had been on the run for 3 months when she was finally caught.
Right.
She slipped up while applying for a job as a nurse in Oklahoma, so she'd been required to give fingerprints for a background check at the hospital, and the cops homed in.
Yeah, stupid. That's like basic 101. Don't ever give your fingerprints.
Well, this is the 70s, though, so maybe it didn't occur to them. I don't know. She then went on to spend 7 years in prison and then was paroled and deported back to the Honduras where she was from after 4 years served. Meanwhile, Christ was sentenced to life in prison. 20 years after the kidnapping, though, Christ's former parole officer, Tommy Morris, gave an interview with media where he said that they kidnapped Barbara and buried her alive, not for the ransom they demanded from the Mackle family, but for the challenge of keeping the victim alive underground.
Oh.
And I wonder if that was because Christ, through opportunity, he just happened to work in a company that made
boxes,
like ventilated boxes. But Tommy Morris, the parole officer, said he was looking for a rich, tough-minded female, someone who could stand up to the trauma of being buried alive. Barbara Jane Mackle fit that profile.
How on earth did they find them in a random hotel? And she was sick and all of this stuff.
Well, they must have been following her.
Yeah, because I honestly thought it was the boyfriend. That was my theory.
I know you did. I know.
Red herring.
And I did it first as well. But after serving 10 years, Christ was actually paroled and he went to medical school.
Oh.
Where he graduated and became a doctor.
Oh, so there is some kind of happy ending here.
Well,
I don't know that I would want him,
as your doctor,
working on me.
Well, he only managed to be a doctor till 2003 because then he was struck off, Michelle, because he didn't tell the truth about a disciplinary action that he'd received during his residency, and he didn't tell where he worked about that. So that was discovered. He was struck off. And then 3 years later after that, 2006, Christ was sent back to prison after being caught on a boat. He loves those boats. And he had been smuggling not just a bunch of cocaine, but some people as well.
Oh, for God's sake.
So this time he went to jail for 5 years.
You know, this is the thing. You'd like to think that, you know, he's clearly smart. He's got like a medical degree. So the dude's got a brain. But is it a case of once a crim, always a crim?
Exactly. Well, he keeps popping in and out, in and out. And he was, if you remember, an escapee from a prison in the first place.
Yes.
On the run for 2 years. When he escaped, apparently one man was killed. So it was quite dramatic.
Oh, gosh.
I don't know how. Yeah, so once he was sent back in for 5 years, he must be out by now. So I'm assuming he was released in 2015.
Oh, okay. Nearly 10 years ago.
Yeah. And then he wrote a book called Life, The Man Who Kidnapped Barbara J. Mackle, which was published in 1972, which is the year after Barbara's book.
Right.
And as for Barbara, her family reported that she remained relatively unscarred psychologically from her ordeal. And apart from the book she wrote, which was encouraged by then President Richard Nixon, he said, go and write this book, whatever. She kept herself under the radar, living in Florida with boyfriend, then husband, Stuart Woodward, and raising 2 children until Stuart's death in 2013. R.I.P. Stuart, I think both Michelle and I owe you an apology for assuming that you had anything to do with this.
Yeah, sorry about that.
He was true to her all the way through, college boyfriend, all the way to husband passing away in 2013.
I thought that was Jane. Jane's the mum. Jane's the mum, Barbara's the daughter.
Daughter, yeah.
Okay.
But there were 2 movies made about her kidnapping, so if you want to catch up on them, they're starring no one I've ever heard of, called The Longest Night in 1972, and based on Barbara's book, 83 Hours Till Dawn in 1990.
Were they made for TV specials?
Both.
Could have been.
Yes, they were.
Could have been. Then we would never have seen them unless they came directly after Bold and the Beautiful, and then I might have watched. You never know.
Oh, because they would put a TV movie on straight after the B&B.
They would.
Bold and the Beautiful.
The Bold. It was like, do I want to go to university or I just want to watch some daytime telly? Often it's the daytime telly one. Yes, but wow, what a story. I feel like I've heard something similar. I don't know if it's that story.
Perhaps you've watched the TV movie 83 Hours Till Dawn.
Kind of recognition bells were ringing for me. I was like, I feel like I've heard this story before, but yes, maybe I saw the telly movie.
There is a story, which I didn't look up, which is a German heiress. Did you try and Google it while you were looking?
I did. I actually went on to Eavesdroppin because I was like, have we done this before?
Had we? I don't recall.
I didn't find it on the website, so no. When you're rich, people want a bit of that money, don't they? They want a bit of something.
Or they just are making boxes with holes in and have an idea. Oh, wouldn't it be interesting to see if somebody could stay alive in a box and then we could get some money to boot? Why not?
Well, I wonder where that guy is now, because I was getting vibes of that Dr. Death or whatever, who was he a real doctor or he just faked it? I can't even remember, but yes.
Right, so he went on to be the centre of many more scandalous stories and podcast fodder.
Yes, and I think there was that awful story of he'd said to his best friend, who said, oh, I've got a bit of a sore neck. And he's like, oh, yeah, I can fix that. I can operate on you.
Oh.
He had no clue what he was doing, and he effectively medically decapitated his friend.
Oh, my God.
He severed everything, and this guy has no use of arms, legs, nothing. He's just a head in a body that doesn't work.
Oh, God.
Yeah, really terrible.
Jesus. What's that? Is that Dr. Death?
I'll have to look it up, and I'll pop it on the Patreon because, you know...
Oh, that's frustrating for those of you who are not patrons. You won't know the answers to all of this. You won't know what we're talking about. So if you want to, you know what you got to do.
But in the meantime, Geordie, there are 3 things we got to do.
We've got to chuff off. Firstly, though, we want to say, wherever you are,
whatever you do,
just keep eavesdropping.
Eavesdropping. Eavesdropping. Eavesdropping. Eavesdropping.